Today, I'm talking with the owner of a vending machine business, one of those side hustles you've probably seen on just about every top 10 side business list out there. We dive into what it's really like to run a vending machine business, how to get started, what the profits look like, and the lessons he's learned along the way. And if you're a business owner, this episode is for you too. You'll hear how adding a vending machine to your location can be an easy way to generate extra income without lifting a finger. The machines are fully managed, and you get some of the revenue just for hosting one. So whether you're thinking about starting a side hustle or looking for a passive income stream for your business, this is an episode you won't want to miss. Let's jump in.
Are you looking for new ways to make your sales grow? You've tried other podcasts, but they don't seem to know. Harvest the growth potential of your product or service as we share stories and strategies that'll make your competitors nervous. Now, here's the host of the Harvest Growth Podcast, John LeClaire.
Welcome back to the show. I'm excited to be speaking with my good friend, Scott Brown. He's the owner of Snax Depot. If you want to check out their website, it's snax-depot, depot.com. It's a vending machine business that has really taken off, and he's got some unique ways of running his business and also operating these machines. I think it's a really interesting and fun interview that you're going to enjoy. But first of all, Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Look forward to sharing all the good things about vending.
You know, you keep very busy running this business. You do a lot of stuff. And I'm curious on how you do it all. And we'll kind of dive into how you run your business, et cetera. I first want to talk about vending machines specifically, though. I imagine my audience is probably like me. You know, being in the business world, we end up getting followed, right, on Facebook or LinkedIn or X or whatever platform you're on with different, business ideas, et cetera. And one that I've seen a lot of it's like articles that are like the top 10 ways to make money on the side, or things like that. And vending machines are almost always on the list of like non-sexy businesses, things like that or whatever. But they can be a great way as a business owner to make money. And we're going to dive into kind of how you do that. Can you describe, first of all, what's it like running a vending machine business? For those that may have read those articles and wondered, what is it like running a vending machine business?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that it's not difficult. I think when I first got into it, there was definitely some learnings and understanding, but it's very easy once you understand how the system works. You get your processes in place. It really becomes more of a logistics opportunity, right? And so I think I found it very easy because I have a logistics background, and then I'm in robotics, so I'm very understanding of AI technology and things like that. So it probably gave me a little bit of an edge understanding all that. But I do think it's a very simple business to get into. It's interesting. When I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do to grow a business, I did the same thing. I researched articles and found out the top 3 businesses that were most successful in the United States. Interesting enough, coin-operated laundry machines were number 1 and vending machines were number 2. So, I kind of jumped in and found the right products, the right services, and then ran with it. And now I think it's just a matter of, finding good customers that want to replace old existing systems and with newer AI technology type machines.
It's funny you mentioned I've seen those coin operating laundry machines on the same list. We're probably reading the same articles. And to me, it just seems so much more difficult. Like you don't have to supply them with food and refill them, but I can only imagine how often those things break down. And when they break down entirely, they're just water going into it, not just electricity. There's a bunch of moving parts. People don't take care of them. They're jamming too many clothes in. I just got to imagine that they're down a lot, as opposed to vending machines, as you mentioned, is relatively speaking an easier business to run. Let's talk about the customer side. So how do your customers make money when you place a vending machine in their business?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think what I've learned in the industry is a lot of times they offer profit sharing. What we've developed is a program that really shares much greater profit with you as the volume goes up. And I think it's a tiered program that I haven't seen or any of the competition doing. So I'm interested to see how that's going to help us grow because, my view is that, there's an opportunity here to share some of the profits, but most of the companies I've seen offer a flat fee based on the profit sharing. And whereas I'm more than happy to share more of the profit as we grow in volume in business. So, I think it's a win-win for all of us.
Absolutely. I was actually at a friend's new business over the weekend that just opened up. He's got this, without going into his details, it's not about him today, but it's a location-based business in my town in Castle Rock, Colorado. And one of the first things I went in there, it was his open house. So they're literally just opening. They're saying, oh, here, we got to do this. We got to do this. Here's things we're still missing. And first on his list was a vending machine. We got to get a vending machine in here. And a lot of business owners are thinking about that for their spaces and may not realize that as long as they have foot traffic going in, then it makes sense for somebody like you to supply them with a vending machine at no cost, not only no cost to them, but they can actually make money at it, as you mentioned, either a flat fee or a profit share. It's not like you have to buy the big expensive machine as the business owner. So many of you might be listening to this podcast, I think in one of two ways, right? One is, hey, I want to do another business on the side. And it's good to understand, kind of the inner workings of what it's like running a vending machine business. Or others that might own a location-based business, right? Maybe a fitness gym or a big warehouse or some place that has a lot of foot traffic and might be thinking, how do I make more money from our customers and make them happier too, right? Have a better experience in our location. And even if you have a vending machine, then we'll talk about ways you can make more money and have a better experience with the machines that Scott runs, for example. So we'll kind of talk through all that. Back to the customers. So if they bring in a vending machine into their facility, what's their responsibility once it's there? Do they restock it? How does that all work? Can you explain that?
Yeah, no, it's really hands off for them. We'll come in and measure all the doorways and make sure that we can get the machine in. Once we've identified that we can get the machine in and we agree on the location, the only thing we got to make sure is that there's power. And typically we'll find a spot that we can get to the outlet and that. Once we have it in there, we stock it, we replenish it. It's completely hands off. And then at the end of the month, we generate a report, shows the products that were purchased, and then we calculate the profit sharing and we bring that report with a check, and they usually smile at me and thank me, and we go on to the next month. So really hands off. And I think that's the beauty of it. There's no contract. We don't do a contract. We agree on the profit sharing, which is typically our tier program that we share. And not many people balk at it because they like the opportunity. And I think that's a great way because it's just so seamless for them that, and we put a suggestion whiteboard on the side of our machines that allow the customers to put recommendations, and as long as we can source the product and it's reasonable, we'll put that in as well.
And your particular machines, you mentioned AI. I want to talk about some other differences or benefits. How is it different? Because, for the layperson that doesn't know much about vending machines other than being a user, right, for many years, and those that are listening in the audience, what is different about Snax Depot vending machines versus other, old-fashioned vending machines that are out there?
Well, it's a couple things. One, the AI technology that operates in it, which we can go into later. It also has an HMI screen, which is basically a visual screen that allows you to select the products from. We do accept cash, credit card, Apple Pay, debit cards, whatever. So we do offer that. A lot of the newer machines have that, so that's not a competitive advantage. But I think the big thing is we have sensors in the bottom where the product falls into that you retrieve. What's nice about that is if the product hangs up in the coil or it doesn't dispense and drop into that bucket, it immediately refunds if it's cash, you get your cash back. If it's credit card or whatever, it doesn't even charge it. And I think what customers, or at least I've spoken to, they like that because typically if there's something hangs up and they lost their money or whatever, they have to go to my customer or the business owner and say, hey, I didn't get my product, I lost $3 or whatever. And they have to then refund that. And then I would have to come in and repay them. Whereas we don't have that problem. And I think that's one of the toughest problems most of the vending machines have is that when you pay for something that doesn't dispense properly, how do you get your money back? And it's happened to all of us. I can remember, getting something in the machine and looking at it hung up and going, well, that stinks, but you lost your money. And whereas ours won't ever, until it dispenses and drops down into the bucket where you receive it, there's no charge. And like I said, if you put cash in, it doesn't dispense, then your cash is returned to you. So really makes it nice for my customers not have to deal with the problems that may come with getting hung up with a product.
And from a customer standpoint, the more that they sell, of course, they're making money, right? Because they make a commission on every sale that goes through your vending machines. But their customers that are coming through their businesses or their employees that work in their businesses are also happy, right? When their snack they want, whether it's a drink or an edible snack, then it's there for them, right? So it's ready for them when they're ready to eat, and as opposed to out of stocks, which can be a real issue, I know, with other vending machines. And I think the AI technology helps with that. And I do want to get into that in just a minute. But before we do, let's talk about, how this is different and better for the customers. So can you give an example, what's the best result you've seen when you put one of your machines in versus a machine that was in a customer's business previously?
Yeah, it's interesting. You said that was my first site that I placed a machine at. And I didn't know what to expect. They told me that previous vending machine operator that was in there was doing very little business. And I noticed when I would go in and look, the product seemed to be out a lot. And I don't think they were replenishing it as frequently as probably needed. And in the end result, the profit sharing that the customer received, they were making 10 times more in a month than they were all year from the other customer, or the other vending machine company. And, they were horrified when I brought the check over for the first month. They were like, this was for 1 month? And I said, yeah, why? And they were like, we didn't make that in a year. And so, I think it really made me feel good that their customers that came through there, the traffic came through there, was very pleased with the pricing and with the product selection. And like I said, my customer, the owner, obviously making more money than he was even envisioning. So, in fact, he was so excited that he has another location that he asked us to go and put machines in, which we did. And it's been a great business relationship.
That's awesome. I keep teasing, we both have, I think, the AI technology, so which is, obviously a buzzword that people use in so many different ways. But let's talk specifically about how the AI technology, first of all, how is it implemented? What does it do when you say that? How is it actually helping your vending machines?
Yeah, and I think that's a great question, because AI can be misconstrued in that, and maybe some not real good understandings, but basically it's teaching itself, right? It's basically taking information and then teaching it to perform better. And so what our AI does is it is looking at what's being purchased, what's the product that's being purchased, what's the frequency it's being purchased, and then it can calculate based on the product selection and frequency of being bought. It can then do what we call predictive analysis, where it predicts when the product will be out so that we can replenish before it actually runs out. It also then looks at the product selections and analyzes what are the top sellers, and then it will make recommendations on other products that would match in that category, that would allow us to carry, that potentially would, please the customer even more. So I think what it does from my perspective is that it's optimizing the machine to match the customer's selection and desires, what they want, but also keeping it replenished so that it doesn't ever run out of stock. And there are times where, it takes probably 5 to 6 weeks to get the AI right. And so it builds up that database. And then once it does, it's pretty accurate as far as predicting when I need to restock. But there's times where you get an influx and it, outpaces what the AI told us. And so there will get, I don't want you to think there won't be times, but we're pretty in tune with it, because it'll notify our phones and it'll alert us if something's going to run out so that we can then get back in there to replenish it. So we think we give a pretty good white glove service when it comes to replen. We were on top of our game, and, we don't want to be out of stock, because if it's out of stock, we're not selling. And I'm not making money for me or for the customer.
Agreed. And if you think about, compared to the old traditional vending machines, which so many of us have seen without this technology in there that doesn't communicate any inventory information, you might run out of stock of, let's say, your top 10 items, right? but you have no idea what is your number one item versus your number 10 item. You just show up. If you're the vending machine business owner, right? Getting in there, replenishing, you just kind of refill the ones that go empty. You don't realize how many people have left because their top item isn't there and it's been out of stock for several days now, let's say, or that they make their second choice and maybe they purchase a little less frequently. So having that communication can make such a difference. If I can share one story that I think relates to this, we have a good friend and client of ours that owns a business that sells to gas stations and convenience stores across the country, kind of knickknacks and that sort of thing. They have their own displays that go in there. So very different in some ways, business from yours. The interesting part of their story is their business was extremely successful, let's say 20 years ago, 15 years ago. It still is. But at that point, the big difference was their inventory management. So they could determine at each store which items were sold more frequently. So they restocked correctly. Now, the interesting part of this story, I think, is Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, his company, came in and actually bought this company for 9 figures. Huge acquisition. And their belief was at the time, because they already had a company that distributed to all these stores, well, hey, we can save money on distribution. And they did. But what they didn't do is have the learnings of how to restock correctly. And so they actually really suffered, even though their costs were lower, they suffered and ended up selling their business back, or that business back, to my same friend for literally 10 cents on the dollar. So he sold it for a huge amount, bought it back for a tenth of what they originally bought it for, and then fixed it, right? And now has grown it and become very successful again. But the correlation I want to make is it all comes back to inventory management. So whether that's selling to literally tens of thousands of convenience stores and gas stations across the country, or whether that's, selling to X number of vending machines, the principle is the same. When you manage inventory successfully at the location specific level, you're going to have more success, as are your customers that are having your vending machines in place. And the AI technology now does that, right? So it's kind of taken, I assume, the advantage away from my friend a little bit from what he used to do. That Warren Buffett probably could do a better job. He's not him personally, right? But his company could do a better job today than they did back then. And you've got that built in, right? So you can automatically have that huge tool, that technology to have those learnings in place, give that level of customer service and real success for employees and customers that are in each business to have a better experience along the way. What kind of comments have you gotten back from some of your customers in terms of keeping their employees and their customers happier? What's been, other than money, we talked about how you make or how they make more money, right, on each location. Are there other benefits you've seen?
Well, it's interesting. They're always a little bit surprised, probably as I was when I first started, is the products that are actually selling. I think everybody thinks what they like and is going to be a top seller, but it always ends up being probably stuff that we wouldn't think of. And, the best one I can give you is one of my customers is a big fitness center, has pickleball, tennis courts, swimming pool, a whole 9 yards. And, other than, Fairlife protein drinks, which I sell a lot of, the owner and I were a little surprised that Sour Patch Kids and Swedish Fish were the top sellers. So, you kind of think, okay, well, I'm carrying a lot of health snacks. They're not really selling as much, but the stuff that you wouldn't think would sell much, they end up being the top sellers. And it's interesting. A young lady come up to me and she said, you should be having more health snacks. And I looked at her and I said, I'll put in whatever sells. I said, but unfortunately, that's not what people are wanting and buying. I said, the AI technology is saying, hey, this is interesting because this is what we're actually selling. And I said, so, happy to carry more of the health stuff, but if it's not selling, then it doesn't do me any good. It doesn't do my customers any good. And so I think she understood what I was saying. I think she just was disappointed that more health snacks weren't selling. And so I think that's some of the stuff that you recognize. And I think my customers, especially at that gym, was a little shocked to see, even though we're, doing tenfold what the previous guy was. It was interesting to see that, it's not always the healthy snacks that are selling more frequently. And I contributed to it. They have a daycare there. So there's a lot of younger kids there. And obviously, I think they tend to focus more on that. I think if you have a heavier adult organization, I think you'd probably see more of the health snacks selling it. And I think of it as a child myself. I didn't think about that kind of stuff when I was younger, and I wanted to eat what, I liked. And if it was Swedish fish, I wanted Swedish fish.
Yeah, it's so true. I think the nice thing about utilizing technology is it can help remove some of the subjectivity. So if you think of that business owner example you gave, where you assume your customers are going to buy a more healthy treat on average or healthy snack on average. And so if you were just looking visually when it's time to replenish, hey, I've got, it's almost, the healthy treats are almost gone. All the unhealthy ones are sold out, but you have no idea the velocity, right? Where again, missed sales you've had along the way, or maybe they bought the unhealthy ones and then went over to the healthy because it's all that was left. You kind of lose that data. So when you introduce technology, it removes some of the subjectivity. Now, of course, we're not making the recommendation to only sell unhealthy treats. We want to help America be healthier, right? By making good choices. But at the end of the day, you want to have people have the offerings that they are interested in purchasing in their life, whether they're buying from you or somewhere else. Make it available to them. They're happier. And of course, your revenues are better for it as well. So Scott, go ahead.
One of our customers, which is a warehouse, we thought we would sell more of soups, macaroni and cheese, sandwiches, salads. I mean, we can carry a lot of different products because we thought they would want that for their meals or whatever. And we carried Hot Pockets and, things that they could microwave. And shockingly, we didn't sell any of it. So, it's one of those things. The AI is great. Once we get enough data, we then know how to mix our products so that the customer's happier. And I think that's the success. It takes some of the guessing out of it for us.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Scott, you're also a veteran, and I know that's important for a lot of your customers. Can you talk to us a little about your service?
Sure. When I come out of college, before I got out of college, I, interesting enough, went through OCS, Officer Candidate School, in the Marine Corps. Went to Quantico, Virginia, went through their program. And if you remember, I'm quite older than most. Top Gun had come out that year or the year after, and I wanted to fly jets. And unfortunately, my eyes didn't want to cooperate with that plan. So my roommates in college were all Army. So a year later, I switched to the Army and I went on active duty, and I served a lot of different bases. As a Fort Bragg, Fort Benning, Fort Knox, and then overseas. And spent 6 years on active duty. I was a armor officer, went from the M1 tank to the M1A1, and got to enjoy that and that experience, and also was a scout platoon leader, which was the Bradley fighting vehicle. So loved the experience. Wouldn't change it for anything. It was just great experience, and loved serving the country. I felt like I was doing something that had a purpose.
I do wonder how many. I was a boy. I don't know how old I was when Top Gun came out, but I did see it in the theaters, remember it, and I wanted to be a fighter pilot too, right? I think we all did. You kind of had to, if you walked out of that and didn't want that, especially as a teenage boy, then I don't know what. But yeah, it was a lot of fun to watch. But I can only imagine tanks would be a lot of fun too. There's so many opportunities in the military you don't think about or know about, right? Unless you've seen a movie. And what was it like driving a tank?
Well, I didn't drive it. I mean, I commanded a group of tanks, and it was a lot of fun. It's a lot of firepower. You have a coax machine gun that is on there. The cannon's 120 millimeter. And then you have a 50 caliber machine gun on top. So, you got a lot of firepower, and there's nothing better than just shooting stuff and blowing things up. And I enjoyed every bit of it. When you go on a range and you're lighting it up, it gets us pretty excited.
That's fun. No, I'm sure. Well, thank you for your service. I think it's great that you've turned into now, after the military, a great business career since then. Well, Scott, is there anything I didn't ask you that you think could be helpful for our audience?
No, I think you've covered it pretty well. I think, the technology's there. The challenge I think I face is getting people to understand the benefit of it. And it's what I've always told you before. If I have a machine that's working, why change it? And my argument has always been, why not change? I mean, you got this nice technology, you got no headaches as far as, being any kind of contract or whatever. So to me, it's a good thing. And so I'm looking forward to the opportunity and the challenges.
Thank you. And you mentioned no contract. So how do your contracts work? Is it month to month or long-term
No,
contracts?
there's no contract. We just ask for a 2-week notice. If they say, hey, we want you to take the machine out, just give us 2-week notice so we can coordinate get that out.
So truly no risk involved. These are great machines. I do encourage our listeners, if you or anybody you know may be interested in new vending machines for your location, or perhaps you haven't done it yet. Either way, you can reach out to Scott to learn more and potentially get him onto your site or ask any questions potentially about running a business like this. Scott, how do they best get a hold of you?
Yeah, our website, and as you said, it's snax-depot.com, or you can call us at 781-269-1169.
Well, I definitely appreciate the time. I do encourage our audience, please, it's in the show notes, of course, as always. So if you're driving, don't have the chance to write it down, always go back to our website at harvestgrowthpodcast.com. You can find this, of course, on YouTube or any of the platforms, but it's in the show notes, the URL, as well as the phone number to reach out to Scott to ask any questions you might have. And to our audience, thank you for tuning into today's episode, where we uncover the stories and strategies behind some of the most successful product marketers out there. If you're looking to take your own business to the next level, be sure to visit perfectlaunch.com. You can grab a free copy of my book, The Perfect Launch System. It's packed with proven principles we've developed over the past 20 years, helping hundreds of businesses launch and grow successfully. Plus, you'll also get exclusive one-page summaries of some of our most popular podcast interviews, real-world insights and strategies you can apply right away. Head to perfectlaunch.com and start building your perfect launch today. Until next time, keep learning, keep launching, and keep growing.